I joined a book club 2-3 weeks ago, actually, with 2 people from this book club. I already had a book club before, a few years before. They wanted to do it again, but through Zoom. One of my friends, she created a group chat and she put the original numbers, plus there's some people who wanted to join, so they're there. I was supposed to be the first one who would choose the book of the month, and I chose this book. This book wasn't what I expected it to be. It catfished me. Let me give you a short synopsis for this book. Deep underground, 40 women live in a cage guarded by men at all time. They have no idea what happened to the world, why they're there. They never get any information from outside because those guards are, I assume, instructed to not to interact with any of them. The youngest person in that group is our main character. She's significantly younger than anyone else there. This book is very easy to read and it's a very short read, so I didn't feel like I wasted my time, even though I didn't really like it and I don't think I would ever read it or recommend it to people. It sounds bad, but it's actually just because this book doesn't bring anything significant, but also doesn't do anything that I absolutely hate. The first part is how people lived and our main characters in the cage, how they escaped, and her thought process around that time, and then after they escaped, let's say, and how they lived outside. I did enjoy the second part of the book a little more just because it added some mystery to it. I saw a big potential when they escaped the cage and when they went outside. Thought we'll learn a little more about the world, why people are imprisoned in cages, what happened, where's everyone else, because spoiler alert, she doesn't find anyone else outside, so they only find small cages underground that were built just like them, but none of the other ones survived and were able to escape. So we don't really get introduced to any new characters after that. All 39 women die because, again, they were way older than our main character. Our main character goes to explore, and I like that part, and it felt like a meditation for me, just a very calm walk with our main character. We didn't really get a lot of information during her exploration, and I do understand why a lot of people hate it, but I actually didn't mind it. Again, I wasn't super involved in the story, and I think after one point I stopped having any expectations of it, so I didn't really feel negative about it. We had an open ending. Things that I didn't like, again, I didn't feel any emotional attachment to characters when I'm reading the book or when I'm watching a movie, TV show, whatever. I really like having interesting characters and I want to care about those people, and I didn't care about anyone in this book. Our main character is basically like I don't really know how to describe it. It's not even a white canvas. She's just very bland, not super interesting to follow. The one thing that carried me through is some interest in the outside world. I do not like how I got catfished hard by the title. Whenever I choose a book to read, I try not to look into it too much, and I just get it. And by the title, I thought it would be more of a thought experiment of how the society would look like if it wasn't for men as a system. Maybe I imagined a small village full of women, and the youngest people in the village, they've never seen their fathers or ever. We don't know the reason why. I wouldn't really care about that. I want to see how would the language change, how would the structure work, how would the ideas of work look like, interactions between people. That's what I was expecting. It's just like an author's opinion on how society would look like if we didn't have men. How safe people would feel. And I didn't get that. It went more into dystopian direction, which I wouldn't mind if I didn't expect anything different. But yeah, just very short review. This book is very short. There's not a lot to tell. Don't mind me today. I feel extremely tired, but it's the end of March, last day of March. Finished my last book of the month, Metamorphosis by Kafka. This book is extremely popular. Almost everyone have heard of a story where a guy turns into a cockroach. I just had not very specific actually. I didn't expect anything, but I thought that it would go into a completely different direction. And I was also surprised by the length of the book, because the book is quite short. You can definitely finish it in one day, which is basically what I did. Very easy to read, nothing complicated. A story of a traveler office worker who keeps afloat all of his family, and one day he wakes up and he needs to go to a train to his another business trip, and he realizes he cannot move properly, and we find out he is turned into this huge cockroach. And obviously everyone in the family is terrified. The first reaction they have is fear. They don't know what's happening. I don't know if they even realized that the big cockroach was their son/brother. And this story just follows how the family, mostly his family, treats him, and how he lives his life as a cockroach. For some reason I also thought that at the end of the book he was gonna be human again, but spoilers, he did not. He died. And this is actually a very sad story. This book is trying to show all the maybe evil parts that the person would have. So, when Greg, I think Greg, or his name is Greg, I cannot remember now. But when this guy turns into a cockroach, the family obviously has to go to work again. This guy is being a very big inconvenience for them. I don't think there's any positive interactions with his dad at all after he turned into a cockroach. The sister was mostly the one who was taking care of him. Mother, maybe sometimes, but she was way softer than the dad was. And I think I was in a not super good mental state while I was reading this book. And it's interesting how first I did try to, in my head, subconsciously excuse the behaviors of parents and the sister at the end, how badly they treat him. I was thinking, okay, maybe they're under stress, they have to work, and they have this big cockroach in the house. What if they have a phobia of cockroaches? But at the end of the day, it's their family relative. Even though he is inconveniencing him, they shouldn't treat him that way. I don't think it's the right thing to do. So me subconsciously agreeing and making excuses for his family did make me aware that there's a lot of things I do need to think on. Because growing up, you always would get a sense of the person, their values, depends on what they do and how much they bring. And I do think that's the wrong way to go. I do obviously still have a lot of things I do need to deconstruct regarding to that. And this book made me aware of that a little more. So that's good. Because our main character, Gregor, even if his name is not Gregor, I'll just go with it. He also has this existential crisis because his identity was built around the person who brings money to the family, makes everyone feel secure financially, and that was his thing. That's how he would describe himself, I think. Hard worker, and when those things go away, who he is, he doesn't know. Very sad to see, because I do think that every person has obviously their own value regardless of what they do, and even though someone can be very hard worker, very responsible person, there is also a layer beyond that. This is going to be a very, very short review of the month. I don't really feel like filming. There is quite a lot of things that I've watched. There's not a lot of things that I've read. The reason for that is, for the most part, I was reading a book called Tanais, which is, interestingly enough, was written by my uncle, and it was a tough read. Sometimes was hard to follow along with the story, and the characters were good, some of them, but some of them they just didn't feel like real people. But since it is someone that I know wrote the book, I think it's still pretty cool. And who can write something like that, I admire. And I have 2 more books of him, same series, and I will take some time between them just because I was reading way less than I usually do, partially because of that. One of the few documentaries that I've seen was Dinosaurs, that was made by Netflix, and it's a mini series about just dinosaurs, different types of them, how they evolved and how they ceased to exist. I thought for the most part it was pretty cool. Unfortunately, I did Google after, and I should have done it before, but they used AI to enhance some things. I'm not sure to what extent the AI was used, but just the fact that they did it made it a little sad for me personally. I am a big fan of documentaries like that. As a kid, I had a DVD for Walking with Monsters. It was a movie about creatures that existed even before dinosaurs, and I thought it was so cool. The only problem I have with those type of things is I forget all of their names immediately. I don't think my brain can even register that in the moment. I genuinely cannot tell you any names of the dinosaurs that were in the series except for T-Rex. The documentary that I saw before that was also a mini series about the top model. I don't think I've watched it as much as a kid. I remember a few episodes, but it was never like a regular thing. Funny enough, they did show clips of one episode that I remember. It's where they had to do a photo shoot in olive salad. I remember that one specifically. I don't remember any of the other things. I guess as a kid you don't really realize how much drama there is there. They had a lot of sexual assault cases, which I don't remember. I don't think I've watched those episodes specifically. But also the bickering between girls and stuff, I don't think it was registering in my head at that young age. And it's so interesting to see how revolutionary it was, just because I guess the main person on the show was a black woman and the other two people were gay people of color. But it was so toxic. And again, as I mentioned, sexual assault cases that were there. It was just very hard to watch because they brought some contestants from the show and they had to tell their experiences again. It was just very traumatizing for them. Tyra thought she was cooking with the show. She thought she was doing a good PR and she looked completely ignorant. And every time they asked her hard questions, she would just go in full denial and say, oh, but it's production, I'm not part of the production team, even though I'm executive producer, but I cannot really decide anything on that. I couldn't really do anything. I also watched 2 or 3 episodes of Investigation of Lucy Gadsby, again on Netflix. It's about a nurse who killed some infants in UK, I think, and I could not finish the show because they used AI personas. It was so frustrating and I just hated seeing that. There's 2 people. One of them is Lucy's, I guess, old friend from college, and the other person was a mother of one of the killed kids. And I do understand why maybe they wanted to create a persona of mother. Still doesn't justify it. But the friend from college, it didn't really play any significant role. It was so useless, and I just couldn't sit through it because whenever they would switch to those AI personas, it would annoy me so much. I genuinely couldn't get through it. In February video, I talked about how I read Anna Karenina, and I've watched a movie now with, I forgot the actress. It's not Natalie Portman, it's the other woman, Aaron Taylor-Johnson and some other people. To me, it was funny how the actors who played lovers in Pride and Prejudice are playing siblings in this movie. And this movie has apparently the same director as Pride and Prejudice as well, so maybe he just really liked working with those two. The shots in this movie were very nice, some of them. I do think that most of the heavy lifting was done by the scene setters. I don't know how you call people who prepare all the rooms and settings. They did good. I think they followed the story pretty closely. Obviously, they had to cut a lot of things because the book is so long. And they were mostly focusing on Anna Karenina and her love story. A big part of Anna Karenina was also Levin, and his story was cut short in the movie. But overall, I think it's pretty good adaptation. I don't think you can do a lot with just 2 hours and compress all 1,000 pages in that. It's just impossible. Over the first 30 minutes, it was pretty boring. Also, another documentary, All the Empty Rooms. It's about filming the bedrooms of kids who died due to school shootings and how people are getting more and more numb to it. I can definitely relate to that. It became quite common when someone says, oh, there's another school shooting in US, and it's just taken as quite normal thing. It's nothing shocking. I did read or heard somewhere that obviously you see a lot of fucked up shit on the internet, and a lot of people are becoming numb to it. So whenever you see something, you just don't really care about it. And I've read somewhere that it is a good exercise to, obviously you cannot do or care about every single thing, but maybe you should pick and choose some of the things you do care about and try to sit with those negative feelings and try to feel them with the limit. If you are someone who's depressed, you probably shouldn't do it, but I do try whenever I see news about the wars happening, how many people die. I try to feel those emotions within me. I've also watched a horror movie, Longlegs, which apparently was very popular 2 years ago. I did not hear about it, and it was a good thriller. It wasn't really a horror movie. It never made me terrified or scared. Cinematography was beautiful. The opening scene was also very interesting. I did not recognize Nicolas Cage in there. I do think the main character could have done a little better job, but overall it wasn't anything bad. I just don't think that this movie was terrifying. The only scary thing was seeing Satan here and there sometimes, and again the opening. Yeah, some characters felt like a plot device that story used to go forward. For example, her boss, forgot the guy's name.